Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. US acknowledges it has secretly shipped significant number of long-range missiles to Ukraine in the recent weeks, and Ukraine has now used them twice. Israel says it is moving ahead with its planned military operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. UN Gaza aid envoy calls on Israel to take swifter action to allow a sustained flow of assistance into the Gaza Strip. A grand jury charges 18 people with allegedly taking part in an Arizona fake elector scheme to re-elect the then US President Donald Trump in 2020. Papers list a former US President Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator. Arizona's fight over 1864 abortion ban continues. Lawmakers in the state's House of Representatives vote to repeal the ban. State Senate needs to pass it within weeks to complete the process. Last date for filing of nominations for constituencies in Phase 4 of India's general elections. India all set to vote in the second phase of polls on Friday. 88 of 543 seats to India's lower house of parliament will go to polls on April 26th. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues, US claims that Ukraine sustained its offensive against Russia with uninterrupted support of secretly shipped missiles. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that a significant number of long-range missiles were secretly shipped to Ukraine and that it has now used them twice against Russia. Adding further, he said that US will send more of it for Ukraine. The Pentagon initially opposed the long-range missile deployment, fearing the loss of the missiles from the country's stockpile, which would hurt US military readiness.
I'm able to confirm, as you've heard from others, that in February, the President directed his team to provide Ukraine with a significant number of ATACMS missiles for use inside Ukraine's sovereign territory. That shipment started moving in March as part of the PDA that the President authorized on March 12th, and those missiles have arrived in Ukraine. We will send more now that we have additional both authority and money.
US President Joe Biden signed a $95 billion war aid measure with assistance for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan after a months-long Republican battle. The bill, signed into law on Wednesday, includes $61 billion in aid to Ukraine and $26 billion for Israel, as well as $1 billion in humanitarian assistance to Gaza and $8 billion to counter China's military might. Biden's announcement marks an end to the long 6 months battle with Republicans in Congress over urgently needed assistance for Ukraine. This month, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky approved a new mobilization law with an aim to replenish the country's exhausted and depleted troops after more than 2 years of war against Russia. But because Ukrainian soldiers are vastly outnumbered by Russian forces on the front lines, it is looking like those who have been fighting since the start of the conflict will have to remain on the battlefield. Megumi Lim gets us more.
Military recruitment ads have become ubiquitous in Ukraine. Some look like movie posters, hoping they will attract more people to join the fight. Before Ukraine's parliament passed the new mobilization law on April 11th, an army general gave lawmakers a sobering report. Ukraine's troops were outnumbered 7 to 10 times on the eastern front lines.
I ask you, pass this law. We need it badly. We need it very much. Our defences are on their last breath.
The decision to pass the final bill was not an easy one. More than 4,000 amendments were made during months of debate.
President Zelensky signed the bill on April 16th, and the law will come into effect within a month from then. It will require men aged 18 to 60 to register their personal information with military authorities, so those who are eligible can be called up to fight. Those living abroad who fail to do so may be denied certain consular services. And for those evading the draft, they'll now have to face a fine.
For many, the hope was that the mobilization law would also include provisions to demobilize soldiers who have been fighting since the start of the full-scale invasion. But with Ukrainian troops outmanned and outgunned on the battlefield, service limits were dropped completely.
Now almost everyone has an acquaintance, a friend or a relative who's on the front lines, and everyone knows that most of the people who are there now have been there for too long, without rest, without vacations, without anything.
Experts say rotating troops out now would be detrimental to the fight.
Because if we have a tough situation on the battlefield and we need more and more brigades, and of course with some experience, because can you imagine that if you change the 80% of the experienced soldiers and officers, they go home, and after this arrive the new guys, it will be disaster actually.
The coming months will be crucial for Ukraine. Russian forces are expected to mount a major offensive in the late spring or summer. And Kyiv will need to muster as many people and resources as possible to hold the front line. Megumi Lim in Kyiv reporting for DD India.
As Israel-Hamas conflict continues, Israeli troops are moving ahead with planned military operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The army is prepared to remove civilians from the conflict-struck region, though Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government gave no timeline. Earlier, Israeli warplanes attacked northern Gaza Strip for a second day on Wednesday. At the White House, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that Washington was still talking with Israel about Rafah, and officials from both the countries are expected to meet again in person soon.
What I can tell you is the U.S. position has been clear on this. I've stated it from this podium. The president has spoken to it. And we've had very detailed discussions with the Israelis as recently as last week by secure video to talk through not just our concerns, but our view that there is a different way to go about dealing with the Hamas threat in Rafah and succeeding in ensuring the long-term defense and security of Israel. We are still in those conversations, and we will still continue to press our perspective.
Meanwhile, the United Nations has urged Israel for a swifter action to allow a sustained flow of assistance into the Gaza Strip. A top UN aid official on Wednesday said that Israel should take further definitive and urgent steps as aid workers needed safe access to and throughout Gaza. Israel pledged nearly 3 weeks ago to improve aid access, including reopening of the Erez crossing into northern Gaza and allowing the temporary use of Ashdod port in southern Israel. The volume of aid allowed to enter Gaza has increased.
At this perilous moment, President Biden has called on Israel to take a series of specific, concrete, and measurable steps to address this humanitarian crisis, protect civilians from harm, and ensure the safety of all aid workers. Israel must do more to prevent civilian casualties immediately. And President Biden has made clear that U.S. policy will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate and sustained action on these steps.
Students in the U.S. walk out of lectures nationwide to protest the Gaza conflict. Speaker Mike Johnson called on the Columbia University president to resign for alleged anti-Semitism, prompting the ongoing protests. Now, protesters at the 10th city demand action before leaving. DD India's Sally Patterson covers the unfolding events.
Speaking on the steps at Columbia University, Speaker Mike Johnson had one message for Jewish students. "We are with you," he said, and anti-Semitism has no place here. The speaker said he was going to leave the campus. He said he was going to call US President Joe Biden and he was going to tell him what he'd seen. And then he said it's up to the president to take action. The speaker accused the president of the university of not taking action when it came to what he called the mob of students who have taken over the quad at Columbia University. They've been there for several days now with tents, with posters, with signs saying they will not be moved until the university listens to their demands. They are calling on it to divest and boycott Israel, boycott any companies that have any links to Israel that they say are fueling the war in Gaza. They say it's unacceptable that the university continues to have links to such companies, and they want to see in plain writing what links the university has, where its funding goes. And they said that there needs to be change now, and they're not going anywhere until those demands are met. But many Jewish students here say they don't feel safe in the face of these protests. They say some of that language that's being used, calling on Zionists to leave the campus completely, calling on Tel Aviv to be bombed, they say is threatening to them, and they say even constitutes anti-Semitism as well. So a clash of two different groups here at the university, Columbia, but also actually around the United States. We've seen these sorts of protests popping up from Michigan to California to Texas, with clashes between protesters and the police as well. Most of the demonstrations say that they are peaceful. They are going to continue doing what they're doing until they're heard, but the administration and many of these universities say that the safety of their students is their number one priority. In New York, I'm Sally Patterson, reporting for DD India.
Former US President Donald Trump has again claimed that the court-ordered silence in his hush money case is unconstitutional. Prosecutors accused he broke the gag rule 11 times. Judge Hua Merkin has not decided on the punishment yet. DD India's William Denslow gets us more on the latest developments from New York.
In a social media post, Donald Trump said the gag order against him in the hush money case was unprecedented and part of a trial that's rigged against him. It's claimed the Republican presidential frontrunner has repeated regularly during the trial. Donald Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, tied to allegations that he paid hush money to a porn star in the lead-up to the 2016 presidential election. Trump denies the charges, and on Wednesday again claimed that the legal proceedings are a political witch hunt, aimed at hurting his chances of regaining the presidency in November. Taking to Truth Social, the former president ought to accuse two other New York judges who presided over several of his recent civil cases of being corrupt and working for the Democrats. Court was out of session on Wednesday, but witness David Pecker is expected to be back on the stand on Thursday. The former publisher of the National Enquirer alleges that he coordinated with Donald Trump to prevent potentially politically damaging stories from hitting the headlines in the lead-up to the 2016 election. Trump's legal team say their client has committed no crimes. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
The US Supreme Court is hearing arguments in a case on Thursday that could have major impact on the next presidential election. It will consider whether Donald Trump is immune from prosecution concerning criminal election interference cases against him. Let's take a look at Caroline Malone's report from Washington on this.
A potentially pivotal moment is happening for former President Donald Trump at the Supreme Court on Thursday. That's when the top court's 9 justices will hear arguments over whether he has presidential immunity for being tried in election interference cases. Now, Trump's lawyers are likely to argue that he should have immunity over official acts that he was conducting while he was in the White House. And that's in reference to some of the events leading up to and on the day of January 6th, the Capitol attack, when mobs stormed into the Congress to try and stop the election being officially declared for Joe Biden, of course, the current president. Now, the prosecution team, being led by Special Counsel Jack Smith, says he doesn't have immunity. There is some precedence for immunity for presidents in the United States, but more related to civil cases rather than criminal. And so they argue this case should go ahead. Their wider federal criminal case against Trump can't go ahead, though, until the Supreme Court issues an opinion. Now, that might not happen until the end of June, but we could get some sense about which way the justices are leaning when we hear how they question both Trump's lawyers and the prosecution team on Thursday. And of course, the opinion and the result from the Supreme Court could have an impact on this year's November presidential election, which is a likely rematch between Biden and Trump, with voters basically deciding whether they want Trump, who could at that point have been part of a number of criminal cases, to be back in the White House, or they want the incumbent, Joe Biden. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins his 3-day China diplomatic mission. Stay with us to know why the visit matters. Nigeria braces an upsurge in cases of malaria and malaria deaths, more than anywhere else in the world. After the break, we get to how the African nation is coping with the challenge. A group of mainland performers present a new musical show for the first time in Hong Kong. Why was it special? Stay with us to know.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. A grand jury has charged 18 people with allegedly taking part in an Arizona fake elector scheme to re-elect the then US President Donald Trump in 2020. The court papers further list a former US President Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator. Now, the indictment stems from efforts to reverse Democrat Joe Biden's victory in several states in 2020 based on Republican Trump's false claims that he had been re-elected. Trump lawyer and former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani is among those indicted. The indictment also identifies one defendant as chief of staff in 2020, the position Mark Meadows held in the Trump White House at that time. The false elector scheme figures in 2 criminal trials in Washington, D.C. and Georgia, charging Trump with unlawfully seeking to overturn Biden's victory. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Shanghai on Wednesday for a 3-day diplomatic mission. The visit comes mere hours after the U.S. Senate passed a bill that includes new funding for Taiwan and TikTok divestment or ban bill. Blinken, in a short video statement posted on the social media platform X, with Shanghai's skyline in the background late on Wednesday, said curbing the flow of chemicals used to make fentanyl to the U.S. from China was one of the several issues he was in China to work on.
President Biden, President Xi, when they met in San Francisco at the end of last year, agreed to cooperate to help prevent fentanyl and the ingredients that make it from getting to the United States. We'll be working on that. Besides my counterparts in the Chinese government, I'll be talking to students, to academics, to business leaders, the people who are building bridges and ties between our countries. And of course, we'll be dealing with areas where we have real differences with China, dealing with them directly, communicating clearly. Face-to-face diplomacy matters. It's important for avoiding miscommunications, misperceptions, and to advance the interests of the American people. I look forward to productive meetings here in Shanghai and in Beijing.
This is Blinken's second visit to the mainland, where he will meet with business leaders and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He's also likely to speak with President Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, China has cautioned the U.S. against supporting Taiwan, saying strengthening military collusion between the two will only escalate tensions and the risk of conflict in Taiwan Strait.
Strengthening military collusion between the United States and Taiwan will not bring security to Taiwan, nor can it save Taiwan from the doomed fate of independence. but will only push up tensions and the risk of conflict and confrontation in the Taiwan Strait, and will ultimately be like lifting a rock and stoning one's own foot.
All right, Laura Westbrook joins us with more from Hong Kong. Laura, good morning. Now, when we talk of this visit, then better US-China ties are expected by both the sides, but then we see there are deep disagreements between both the sides. This being Antony Blinken's second visit to mainland, to what extent do we expect these differences to be ironed out?
Yes, as you said, and as we heard in Antony Blinken in his social media post on the platform X, he really highlighted the need and how critical it was to have dialogue between these two countries. And last night we saw him visit a basketball game. He also went to a steamed bun restaurant in Shanghai with the US ambassador to China. And he also highlighted that he wanted to meet students, academics, as well as business leaders, really saying, and that shows that he wants to highlight personal relationships and that is also something that probably would not have happened before. It shows that the relations have stabilized between the two countries, that he's able to do this sort of softer diplomacy. But as you mentioned, there are still some key differences, and he said that in his video that they will seek to highlight. He really has two key goals on this trip. The first of which is getting China on side and trying to stop Chinese companies funding Russia's war effort in Ukraine, and also in helping to de-escalate the growing conflict in the Middle East, where China has a growing influence in these two areas. But there is also the timing of this trip. The US Congress passed this $1 billion aid package to Ukraine as well as Taiwan, and China has really reacted quite angrily to that. This aid package will provide some arms support for China, and this also comes to Taiwan, and this also comes ahead of Taiwan's president being inaugurated next month. And for China, Taiwan really is one of their red lines. They said that just before this visit started. So as we go into the next 3 days, where Blinken is set to meet his counterpart, China's top diplomat Wang Yi, as well as a likely meeting with Xi Jinping in Beijing on Friday. Whether they will be able to collaborate and get over some of these key differences, well, we're just kind of have to wait and see.
All right, Laura, also China has used stern words with regard to US supporting Taiwan. What more do we know about Chinese response?
So the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman was very angry about this. They said that this violated the One China principle. Now, that is the principle where China sees Taiwan as being part of its territory and that it will unify at some point in the future. And they said that by arming the US arming Taiwan and giving them support when it comes to military hardware as well as US technology, that is going against that principle. And they also said that it was supporting pro-independent separatist forces in Taiwan, and this is something that is something that Beijing sees as being a threat to that One China principle. So we have heard some strong words from China about this aid package, and whether that will have an impact in the tone and the tenor of these talks as we go into some very important global issues and global impact of the talks that will happen over the next days. Whether that will have an impact of how those talks and dialogues go, well, we'll just have to wait and see as well.
All right, Laura, thank you for joining in with those details. The abortion bill continues to spark debate in the U.S. as anti-abortion protesters in Arizona state condemn the lawmakers for repealing 1864 abortion ban. On their third attempt in 3 weeks, lawmakers in Arizona's House of Representatives on Wednesday voted to pass a bill that would repeal the near-total ban on abortion from 1864. The bill was upheld by state Supreme Court earlier this month. In a 30-28 vote, lawmakers decided that the old abortion ban should be repealed. The issue now moves to the state Senate, which is now expected to vote to repeal the ban on Arizona Supreme Court, upheld earlier this month. North Macedonian presidential candidate Gordana Siljanovska-Davkova held a significant lead over incumbent Stevo Pedronski, with votes counted from almost 70% of the polling stations on Wednesday. However, both were well short of the 50% needed to win outrightly, which would mean that there would be a runoff between the two leading candidates on May 8th. While Gordana's supporters celebrated, runner-up Penderovsky said that he expected a better outcome and that tomorrow is a new day. Russia on Wednesday vetoed a US-drafted United Nations Security Council resolution that called on countries to prevent an arms race in outer space. The vote came after Washington accused Moscow of developing an anti-satellite nuclear weapon to put in space. Russia has denied the allegation. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Moscow was against putting nuclear weapons in space. Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia accused Washington of trying to tarnish Moscow and said that Russia would shortly begin negotiations with council members on its own draft resolution aimed at keeping space peaceful. The draft resolution was put to a vote by the US and Japan after nearly 6 weeks of negotiations. It received 13 votes in favor, while China abstained and Russia cast a veto. World Malaria Day is being observed today. Malaria is preventable and treatable, yet it claims hundreds of thousands of lives each year. Nigeria has more cases of malaria and malaria deaths than anywhere else in the world. The fight against the disease in Africa's most populous country is still facing challenges. Despite programs geared towards the elimination of malaria, health experts say that higher quality healthcare needs to be available to all Nigerians in order to fully address the challenge. DD India's correspondent Ajak Mangut gets us more.
Fatima Abubakar lives with her family in this small community in Abuja. She says her children often get malaria due to their poor living conditions.
I have young kids, and sometimes I'll have 2 of them getting malaria at the same time in a month, or one child falling ill twice a month. And that's because we have a lot of mosquitoes here. It's not easy having to deal with that.
Malaria is a disease caused by female mosquitoes found in areas with stagnant water and an unclean environment. Children under 5 are the most vulnerable to the disease. The World Health Organization says Africa is disproportionately affected by the disease.
Health authorities in Nigeria say an estimated 55 million malaria cases and nearly 90,000 malaria deaths occur in the country every year. The World Health Organization also says the risk of transmission exists across Nigeria all year round.
For years, Nigeria, through its National Elimination Program, has been working to lessen the burden of the disease through prevention and treatment, policies and guidelines. But health experts say poor funding, insecurity and the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed progress.
It's been a tough one managing malaria in the country. It's some progress and then some regression. The program, the National Malaria Elimination Program, tries to look at control from different angles. Vector control, appropriate treatment, diagnosis and treatment, chemo prevention, and the monitoring and evaluation, as it may be. So all those have challenges. There are a lot of inequity in even reaching the real needy population for malaria. For example, the burden is more in the rural area, amongst the lower socioeconomic group, in the Sahel region, and then with all the insecurity and all those or whatnot happening in those places. So that was a delay.
Health experts argue that the government should look at guaranteeing access to quality health care, especially in rural areas. They say this will help in providing care for malaria cases and all other diseases the country is grappling with.
The system has to be such that there is access to care, especially for vulnerable and hard-to-reach places and people. People in the rural area, we must revamp our primary healthcare system, retrain our healthcare workers, so they could use the latest and recognized treatment protocols for malaria. And then we have to make healthcare access readily available for our people in the rural area.
The government says it wants to start rolling out vaccines for malaria before the end of 2024, with a target to reduce malaria prevalence by 2025. Also in April, it announced plans to improve facilities in 17,000 primary healthcare centers and establish over 8,000 new ones to improve access to quality health care. But those aims require time and significant funding. For now, Fatima is doing what she can to try and protect her children from malaria. Ajak Mangut in Abuja, reporting for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, CEO of JP Morgan Chase & Company, Jamie Dimon, heaps praise on Prime Minister Modi for uplifting the education system and the overall infrastructure. Stay with us for a sneak peek into how political temperatures are soaring ahead of the second phase polling on Friday. IMD predicts mercury to further soar in the coming days in East and South Peninsular India. Stay ahead to get more. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. The CEO of JP Morgan Chase & Company, Jamie Dimon, has lauded India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his achievements in the country. Speaking at a webinar organized by the Economic Club of New York, he highlighted Prime Minister Modi's unbelievable job in uplifting India, praising the reforms by the current government in the recent past. He noted that India has an unbelievable education system and also an unbelievable infrastructure.
Modi has done an unbelievable job in India. I mean, literally, and I know, the liberal press here, they beat the hell out of him. He's taken 400 million people out of poverty. When we go lecture Modi about, they want trade with us, but we lecture literally. I go to these countries soon after a lot of our government officials there. It's like we're fantasizing about, climate and labor and how we think they should be running their country. He has 400 million people without toilets. Really? And we're lecturing them how to do things? They put in this unbelievable, every citizen by hand or by eyeball or by finger is recognized. They open bank accounts for 700 million people. The transfer payments are going through. They've got an unbelievable education system, unbelievable infrastructure. They're lifting up that whole country because this one man is he's tough. But I think you have to be tough to break that down, and he's breaking down some of the bureaucracy. They have, I think it's 29 states or something like that, but they all had completely different, it's almost like Europe, they had completely different tax systems, which leads to enormous corruption. He's breaking all that stuff down. And so, there are examples of people who have just turned these things around, and we need a little bit more of that here.
And now we get to the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Preparations are in full swing for the second phase of Lok Sabha elections, for which voting will be held on Friday. The elections will be held in 88 Lok Sabha seats in 13 states and union territories, including the remaining part of the outer Manipur Lok Sabha constituency. Polling for the Bethul parliamentary constituency of Madhya Pradesh, which was scheduled in the second phase, will now be held in the third phase due to the demise of the BSP candidate. A total of 1,198 candidates from 13 states and union territories, along with 4 candidates from the outer Manipur Lok Sabha constituency, are in the fray in this phase. Campaigning for the second phase of elections ended on Wednesday, while it continues for the third phase. Bharatiya Janata Party is set to raise the pitch for the 2024 Lok Sabha poll battle, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 32 rallies and roadshows across 10 states in the next 10 days. Prime Minister and senior BJP leader Narendra Modi will address 4 rallies on Thursday, starting from Morena Lok Sabha, which is a bastion of the BJP in Madhya Pradesh. It will go to polls in the third phase on May 7th. Prime Minister will address election rallies in Agra, Aunla and Shahjahanpur Lok Sabha seats of Uttar Pradesh. Senior BJP leader Rajnath Singh will also hold public meeting in Etawah and Khiri in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Also, senior BJP leader Amit Shah will hold a public meeting in Medak Lok Sabha constituency in the southern state of Telangana. He will also hold a public meeting in Bolangir Lok Sabha constituency in the coastal state of Andhra Pradesh. In the coastal state of Odisha, I beg your pardon. And Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy, will file his nomination from Pulivendula Assembly constituency. Samajwadi Party leader Akhilesh Yadav will also file his nomination from the state of Uttar Pradesh. All right, let's get a sense of electioneering across the country. We have reporters and they will be getting us the poll pulse from different parts of the country. Siddharth Bhardwaj is joining us from Wayanad, Kerala. Also, we have Aisha Khanam joining us from Bengaluru, and Aditya Srivastava will be joining us from Bhopal. Good morning, all three of you. Thank you for joining in this morning. First, Siddharth, I'll come to you. You're joining us from Wayanad, Kerala. Get us a sneak peek into the political contest in the 20 seats of Kerala that will go to polls in the second phase tomorrow.
Well, first of all, a very good morning to you, Preeti. I'm here in Wayanad. It's a high-profile constituency, and the election atmosphere is as lively as the weather here in Wayanad. You know, it's a triangular competition here in the region, wherein the competition is majorly between the 3 political parties, which is the CPI, the Congress, and the BJP. Talking about the contenders who will be contesting, is that from the CPI. Party and from the Congress party and from the BJP. Both the leaders, all the 3 candidates are having a good stronghold here in the region. But from the Congress's side, Rahul Gandhi is contesting. From the BJP side, K. Surendran is contesting, and from the CPI, Ani Raja is contesting. So all in all, makes it a triangular competition here in the region. But apart from the election fervor which is happening here, remains a pressing problems of the residents, which is a human-animal conflict. Human-animal conflict is actually a major issue, from which the residents here want a respite from, because it is actually hampering their lives there in all the manners, financially also, and if you talk about the education sector, it's also hampering that. Because they cannot grow their crops because the wild animals come and destroy their crops. Also, at the same time, they cannot send their children to tuitions after dusk because they are scared that the wild animals, will do some harm to their children. This has come from an incident wherein in this year itself, 3 people have been trampled by wild animals here in the region. They want a proper solution to this problem, and that is the reason why they will be going to the polls this time around. They have said in the past that they have repeatedly told to Rahul Gandhi, who's representing this constituency, to find a solution to this problem, but it's not getting any solution. Rahul Gandhi has said that he has written to the state government, he has written to the central government, and he's certainly find a solution to this problem. But how, that remains a major question. So all in all, when the constituency will go to polls on April 26, they'll keep in mind that the next government who will be elected in this constituency will certainly find a solution to the human-animal conflict. Back to you,
All
Preeti.
right, so the human-animal conflict, a persistent challenge there. From here, we'll turn focus to Bengaluru. Aisha Khanum is joining us. Aisha, good morning. When we talk of the second phase of polling, then this phase is important because it will seal the fate of BJP leader Tejasvi Surya, former Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy and D.K. Shivakumar's brother D.K. Suresh. Let us understand more from you from the poll contest. What are you picking up from the ground?
Well, Preeti, good morning. Karnataka is voting on 14 seats in this phase, and this comprises of the southern, mostly the southern parts of the Karnataka state. And this is an important segment because this consists the capital of the state, Bangalore, which has 3 seats, and all the 3 seats are held by BJP. And the BJP in this election, out of 28 seats in Karnataka, are defending 25 seats. Remember, BJP won in 2019 over 25 seats, and the Congress had won just 1 seat. So therefore, it is a huge challenge for both the parties. BJP will have to defend all its seats, and Congress will have to improve its tally. And on the other hand, there is an alliance between BJP and JDS, which is working hugely in the favor of BJP in several rural areas across the Bangalore rural region, and also in the old Mysore region. Now the contest, which are the star constituencies in this 14 seats are Bangalore City, which has 3 seats, Bangalore North, South and Central, Bangalore Rural, where D.K. Shivkumar's brother D.K. Suresh is contesting against a popular doctor. He is Dr. C.N. Manjunath. He is very popular cardiologist, and he's a first-time debutant in this elections, and he is giving a tough time to D.K. Suresh in this constituency. And also the doctor, while campaigning, had also given prescriptions to the people for better morning walk, and also said that as you walk towards the booth and cast your vote also. So this is the kind of competition we have seen. And also in Mysore there is a fight between the royal and the commoner. That is the titular king of Mysore, Yaduvir Vadeyar, is contesting from the BJP seat, and he is the first time debutant in this elections. So Vadeyar is also getting huge response. People are welcoming him in all the rural areas. So for the Congress, it's a tough challenge. For Siddaramaiah, Chief Minister, it's a tough challenge because Mysore is his home turf, and he has to, he is doing a do-or-die battle to keep, to improve the Congress tally and win the Mysore seat at least. So at the moment, all is set, and the electorate in Karnataka, over 2.8 crores, will cast their vote in the first phase, which is actually the second phase in the country, but first phase in Karnataka, and the third and the next phase will be on May 7th.
All right, Aisha, we leave it here. From here, we turn focus to Aditya. He's joining us from Bhopal. Aditya, tell us more about what all seats will be going to polls tomorrow. Help us understand the political contest, and what are the key factors that we look forward to tomorrow.
From Bundelkhand, that is which is the Damoh, Tikamgarh, Khajuraho. 2 from Vind region, Satna, Riba, and 1 from we can say Mahakaushal region. But yes, BJP and Congress both are trying to give a good competition to against them. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had there are 3 events on yesterday. One in Sagar, second in Damoh, and at last he did a huge road show in Bhopal. But today Prime Minister will also to the public rally in Morena. Congress leaders also doing rallies and road shows in various places of Madhya Pradesh. But yes, we can say there are 2 seats are very important seats. One is Tikamgarh. Tikamgarh, the Union Minister Virendra Kumar are in battle. And another one is Khajuraho, where the BJP President V.D. Sharma are in battle. Election Commission also trying to increase the voting percentage in these seats, in 6 seats. The Election Commission also doing the good preparation for voters like sheds, like drinking waters and other facility, ramp and wheelchairs. But we can expect that voting percentage maybe increases on tomorrow voting.
All right, Aditya, thank you for joining in with those details. Siddharth, Aisha and Aditya, thank you for joining us this morning on TD India News Hour. All right, continuing with election updates, the temperature is soaring hour by hour, but the voters of East Tripura say that nothing will dampen their enthusiasm to go out and vote. Here's a report by DD India's Deepika Mahato.
Has now reached the Teliamura region of East Tripura. It is indeed very hot here. You can see the flags behind me because the rally took place over here. But now the space and land is empty because the temperature is rising as the hours passes and people are going back to their homes. Let's now talk to some of the local people here. How are they planning to beat the heat amid the Lok Sabha elections?
The East Tripura district is all set to go to the polls on the 26th of April and the temperature is rising hour by hour. While the residents of East Tripura usually go back home in afternoon time, but on the voting day, they say scorching heat won't stop them. We went out to the voters and asked how are they going to beat the heat on the polling day.
We will go and vote on 26th April. Weather keeps on changing, that's not the concern. We will vote on the polling day.
People have got jobs here in East Tripura. We have seen a lot of development in the last few years. Nothing will stop us from voting. We will vote.
Inside the village area, we met a family who sells small items like biscuits, chips, etc. They say that weather is a regular phenomena, but parliamentary voting happens once in every 4 years.
Heat is not an issue. We will go in the morning to cast our vote. Voting is important.
So there you heard from the voters as well as the party leaders of both the main parties here in Tripura East District that whatever the weather may be, their enthusiasm for putting across the vote for polling on the 26th of April would not be affected by any of the climatic conditions. Be it summer, be it winter, be it a rainy season, the voters have always gone to vote and this time also they will go and vote in large numbers. With camera person Kumar Datta, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from Teliamara District, East Tripura.
We are heading for a short break on DD India News Hour. But after the break, US markets close higher even as investors focus on quarterly earnings from the companies. Barcelona boss Xavi Hernandez agrees to stay in charge of the La Liga Giants for the 2024-25 campaign. It was a jump touching the skies. Japanese Olympic champion Ryu Kobayashi registers a world record 291-meter ski jump in Iceland.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. Benchmark S&P 500 closed higher in choppy trading on Wednesday. An auction of a record $70 billion worth of 5-year US Treasury notes on Wednesday helped to push bond yields higher and had weighed on equities. The benchmark 10-year Treasury note rose 5 basis points. Investors were also focused on quarterly earnings from companies, especially from mega-cap growth stocks. The S&P 500 gained 0.021%, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.1%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.11%. Talking of the Asian markets, and the Asian stocks fell on Thursday as disappointing earnings forecast from Facebook parent Meta Platforms hammered a tech share, while the yen's slump past 155 per dollar for the first time since 1990 raised the specter of intervention from Tokyo. The predictable hit to Asian tech stocks took MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan down 0.7%. Japan's Nikkei slid 1.3%, while China's stock also fell, with the blue chip CSI 300 index down 0.3% and Hang Seng index down 0.5%. The yen slid to fresh 34-year low, and it is likely to force Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda to walk a delicate line in guiding monetary policy this week. The yen fell below 155 to the dollar on Thursday, a level seen as authorities' line in the sand that heightens the chance of currency intervention. The dollar rose as high as 155.37 yen on Wednesday, its strongest since mid-1990s, before falling back in choppy trading. It was last at 155.29 in Asia on Thursday. Meta Platforms on Wednesday forecast that second quarter revenue could come in below market expectations. Meta's shares dropped about 15% in extended trade following the report. Facebook and Instagram parent expects April to June revenue in the range of $36.5 billion to $39 billion, with a midpoint of $37.8 billion, as compared with analyst estimates of $38.3 billion. Meta posted first quarter revenue of $36.5 billion, roughly in line with expectations of $36.2 billion. Meta also raised its forecast for expenses this year to support its investments in new AI products and the computing infrastructure needed to support them. Meta's daily active people, a metric it uses to track unique users of any one of its apps, that is Facebook, Instagram, Messenger or WhatsApp, in a day, grew by 7%. Let's turn focus to sports updates now. Indian golfers Aditya Ashok and Diksha Dagar are set to take part in the 2024 Paris Olympics. Aditi will compete for the third time in the Olympics, which is also the most for an Indian, while Diksha will make her second appearance at the marquee event. The Olympic entries are sent by Indian Golf Union. Qualification for Olympics is determined by rankings, which is limited to 60 men's and 60 women's players throughout the official World Golf Rankings, that is OWGR. The top 15 players in the rankings are eligible for the Olympics, with a maximum limit of 4 golfers allowed from a single country. After the top 15 players, the Olympic golf rankings consist of up to 2 top eligible players per country, as long as it does not have at least 2 golfers in the top 50. Barcelona boss Xavi Hernandez on Wednesday reversed his decision to step down at the end of the season and agreed to stay in charge of the La Liga giants for the 2024-25 campaign. Xavi agreed with a series of conditions set by the club and will honour the last year of his contract. However, those terms are still unclear. He is set to speak to media on Sunday, April 28th, prior to the La Liga game against Valencia. Xavi played for Barcelona for 17 years, making 767 appearances and winning 25 trophies, including 4 Champions League titles and 8 La Liga crowns. Japanese Olympic champion Ryu Kobayashi soared to a world record 291-meter ski jump in Akureyri in Iceland on Wednesday. Kobayashi shattered the ski flying and ski jump world record by 37.5 meters. He has 32 individual wins and 2 overall World Cup titles, as well as individual gold and silver medals at the 2022 Olympics. The 27-year-old reached a top speed of 107 kilometers per hour at takeoff and was suspended in the air for 8 seconds. A group of mainland performers with hearing and sight disabilities have brought a new musical show for the first time to Hong Kong. They performed the beautiful story of goddess Guinan depicting With 1,000 Hands. The group danced together in synchronized movements so seamlessly that it appeared as though one entity with several arms is moving about the space. All right, on that beautiful rendition, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Also, for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from DD India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.